I'm Kathleen Ostrowski, and I'm here for Democratic Dialogue. Today, we have a special guest, the new Gloucester Democratic Ward 4 Chair. His name is Frank Crotty. And congratulations, Frank, on your election to Ward 4.
Well, thank you for having me, Kathleen. I really appreciate it. But before we get going, I want to thank you for the great job you did as being chair of our annual brunch, the Democratic City Committee brunch that we had a couple of weeks ago. And what a coup it was getting Vicki Kennedy there. Wow, it was terrific meeting her and listening to her message. I certainly hope we see more of her. And another coup, of course, was getting the governor, especially when we had the big water problem at that time, and of course the lieutenant governor. So what a wonderful time that was. And you also brought in, of course, the other statewide Democratic candidates for office, and that was Steve Grossman running for treasurer and Steve Murphy running for treasurer. And I think we had three candidates for auditor. We had Mike Lake and Susan Bump and Guy Glotis. And, you know, I'm going to be a delegate at the State Democratic Convention coming up at the beginning of June. And so getting to know these people really helped me to know how I'm going to vote on those folks. So kudos to you. And one other personal thing, of course, your son ran the parking, and he and his gal pal, boy, they were great, and everybody loved to see them. So.
Well, thank you very much. It was a great time, and we certainly love having that annual brunch. And this year was an especially good year, having Vicki Kennedy and all the wonderful guests. So thank you.
Yeah, it was terrific. A full house, and everybody appreciated it. Yes, I am now the official chair of Ward 4, and Ward 4 is it includes Riverdale and Annisquam and Bayview and Lanesville, that area. And of course, it was run. The chair was run for many years by Liz, and she did such a great job, Liz Newmeyer, and she really welcomed me in a nice way. She had a potluck supper right away, introducing me to other active people in the Ward 4. So I say thank you, Liz, very much. Of course, she's a tough act to follow, but she's not going anywhere. She'll be around, so I can ask her for some help. But
well, we're especially glad to have you, and as part of Ward 4 myself, we're thrilled to have you take on this with such an enthusiastic attitude. So thank you, Frank. Can you tell me, are you a Gloucester native?
Oh boy, I was afraid you were going to ask me that. Well, no, I'm not a Gloucester native. However, I am a native of another proud New England seaport.
And Worcester. Where is that? Worcester.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of the Gloucester viewers know that Worcester is a seaport via.
I don't think we did, actually.
Oh, you did? Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah. Well, the Blackstone Canal, which ran for several days in the 19th century, so that technically made us a seaport. But my real connection with a real seaport came when, in the early 70s, when I met my future wife-to-be, Susan Smith. And she's a member of a long-time Gloucester family, and her father, Ben Smith, used to be mayor years ago.
Of course.
And then he became U.S. Senator when his college roommate, JFK, appointed him to the Senate. And then, of course, Ted came in, as we all know, and as the rest is history, as we all say. And Susan and I lived up in Kittery, Maine for many years. And then in 2008, it became time for me to retire. And so we sold our house and we moved back to Gloucester, and we moved into the old family homestead with Susan's mother. So I've been a part-time resident of Gloucester for 40-odd years, and a full-time resident since 2008. So we're here, and we're glad to be here. And
well, we're glad to have you, and we're glad to have you back in Massachusetts and Gloucester.
Well, thank you.
How did you become a Democrat?
Oh, boy. How much time do we have?
Just 35 minutes.
Well, you know, it goes back to my first memories of political events. And as I say, I was raised in the heart of the Commonwealth, Worcester, and the mayor lived just a couple of doors up from us. So that was kind of fun. We always got our street plowed first, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. And then one day I noticed a lot of excitement, and I said, you know, what's going on? Well, the mayor was elected to be the lieutenant governor. Wow, so that was kind of fun. And of course, it happens all the time in Worcester. I mean, we just had another one 60 years later.
That's
Tim
right. Tim Murray.
Tim Murray is from Worcester, so it happens all the time. But anyway, also I was very much involved with politics because my father was an editor at the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. So we always talked about current events and politics and so forth. But then, as I came of age, I had to really start thinking about these things and, you know, which party stood for what and what was going on and what should I do. So I started analyzing it, and I saw, well, one party was a conservative party. And as the name means, they didn't want any change. They're happy with the way things were. Don't do anything. Let's just keep it like this. And, you know, I think even a particular camp of that party would say, I got mine, pull up the ladder, everything's okay. We have nothing to fear but change itself. And so I thought, well, you know, that party's not for me. So I looked at the other big party, which of course was the Democratic Party, and I saw that that was the party of innovation. And I thought, aha, that's the party for me. And I think it was probably best said by Bobby Kennedy. And as we recall, he said, there are those who look at things the way they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. And that really hooked me. And then I thought back of some of the things that happened in the Democratic Party in our country. And you know, one of the great examples of innovation, I thought, was in the early Depression years. We had a really conservative Republican president in the White House, obviously Herbert Hoover. And he was kind of hunkered down in the bunker in the White House as the veterans came, and they were, you know, irate because they weren't getting their bonuses and so forth. And so the only action he took was he set the soldiers on them with drawn sabers and fixed bayonets and drove them out. That's what he did. And then he went fly fishing, which I think was great. Well, the citizenry noticed this, and they unceremoniously got him out of the White House. And of course, we got FDR. And FDR was a great innovator, of course. So he saw that older people were virtually starving and so forth. So, of course, he created Social Security. What a wonderful thing. The old people weren't starving anymore. And, of course, we could talk about that all day. But he also created jobs. And he had people build buildings and build roads and canals and bridges and all these things. And these monuments still stand today. We still use them today. But the main thing was that he was an innovator, and he wasn't going to just sit there and do nothing. He did an awful lot. I think basically we Democrats choose innovation and initiative over apathy and despair. We choose bold, persistent experimentation. And I think conservatives just look back. They don't espouse the Commonwealth that we live in. By the way, Massachusetts is a Commonwealth. I just love that word, the Commonwealth. And I think the the Republicans just say, fend for yourself. Whereas we Democrats, we look ahead, we look for answers, and that's why I'm a Democrat.
Well, thank you. You've done a wonderful job in really explaining how you got to be a Democrat. Can you tell us why people should get involved in the local Democratic Party?
Well, of course, you know, I love old saws. Excuse me. There's the old saw. If you don't contribute, you shouldn't complain. And let's face it, we all like to complain a little. And hopefully there won't be too many people like that old guy. Remember the old guy up in northern Maine? And he never voted. And they said, well, why don't you vote? And he said, yeah, just encourage the rascals. Well, I hope there's not too many people like that. When you become active in the local Democratic Party, you become part of the process. And you become part of the answer. You learn the issues, and you help formulate policy. And your input, of course, is greatly magnified by being part of something larger than yourself. Plus, it's a lot of fun, as we learned when we had the brunch.
That's right.
You made it fun for everybody, so everybody was happy to contribute. You're rubbing shoulders with like-minded activists, which is always fun. And I would tell people, come to our meetings, go to our website, GloucesterCityDemocrats.com, and find out when we are having meetings, when we're having events. Everybody is welcome. And if anybody ever wants to call me. I'm in the book. I'd love to talk about it.
Excellent. Have you had any other experience as a chair of a committee?
Well, yes, I have. Particularly, I was chairman of the Kittery Zoning Board for about 10 years. So that was a big part of my life, and I certainly learned an awful lot. It's where public policy meets the public, and I certainly learned to respect the individuals. And, of course, at the same time, you're bringing community laws and regulations to face with the public individuals. And you have to do it in an even-handed way, showing respect to everybody, but of course you have to respect the laws too. So I learned a lot with that, and of course a lot just working with a board and running meetings and things along that line. So that was very interesting. Also at a young age I was chairman of an American Cancer Society party and committee, I should say. And boy, what an introduction to the problems, the health that we have in this country. I mean, it was just a real eye opener. And this was many years ago. So of course now with the health issues, obviously things are still not exactly the way they should be today. And I was also very involved in a public-private charity up in Maine. And this was when I came up close and personal with a lot of the problems that people face. For example, in the cold Maine winters up there, we'd have a single mom with the kids, and they run out of oil, and it's Friday night, and it's cold, and the welfare office is closed. And what are you going to do? Well, our charity took care of people like that. And then you get into some of the technical stuff. Well, maybe the father's run away, but he's still married, so they don't qualify for any sort of assistance. Well, we could take care of things like that. So I saw a lot of that. And, of course, I'm reminded that that's what the Democrats want to do. They want to have answers to problems like that. So,
and like Tip O'Neill says, all politics is local. And that's really what you're talking about here today.
Absolutely.
Very well said.
Yeah, so that worked out well. And I was also active in the Maine Democrats up there. I was a delegate to the presidential conventions for a couple of years. And what fun meeting people from all over the state. And I went to a lot of the winter meetings up there. You know, I just remember one where it's about 20 below, and some of us faithful are there, and a gal was supposed to come down from Bangor to speak to us, and she's running for a statewide office. And I'm thinking, geez, she's not going to make it, and she's late and so forth. Then all of a sudden the door opens and snow flies in, and she comes in and she's like a frostman, you're all frozen and everything. What happened to you? Well, her car broke down about 2 miles down the road, so she walked in the storm and she made it. I said, what's wrong with your car? It's got 200,000 miles on it. She couldn't afford a decent car. But my gosh, she was going all over the state to just try to run for this office, and we just applauded her, and she did a great job. And that's the kind of devotion that you find in the Democratic Party. So I certainly
you're absolutely right.
I certainly enjoyed that. Also, while we lived in Kittery, our office was in Portsmouth, and so I was active in the Portsmouth Democratic City Committee also. And again,
so you came over the bridge.
I came over the bridge, which is falling apart, and that's another issue. But we don't want to go there. Yeah, so that's not good. But I remember again, all these meetings seem to be the dead of winter. So there's a few of us.
It's a long winter up there, though, isn't it?
It is. It is a long winter, So we're sitting there, and this gal comes in, and she's a housewife, which is nice, and she's bright, which is nice. And she's enthusiastic, and she's a good Democrat. And, well, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm running for Congress. I said, well, it's got a Republican in there who's been there for years, very established, with a big war chest. What are you talking about? Do you have any money? No, I don't have any money. Well, God bless you, and so forth. And she gave us a presentation. She's gone. Good luck to her. I mean, we like her and so forth, but she does not stand a chance, So another month goes by, she comes back, and, what are you doing, Well, it's not so bad. I'm dogging his steps. I'm asking him questions, and he can't answer the questions, and I'm going to every village and hamlet in New Hampshire, and I'm bringing the message, and, you know, I think I got a chance. Well, guess what? Now she's the congresswoman. And it was
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just wonderful, and it just...
She really earned that.
She did. It sends a chill down your back, and it shows you that grassroots working really, you know, really can work. So we were just very happy. So those are some of the experiences
So local
that I've had.
politics is really important.
Well, you said it. Well, you and Tip said it best, yeah. And you can do miracles, really, if you keep at it. And of course, you get other people to help you and so forth. And so, good for her.
Well, thank you very much. That's wonderful. What do you think some of the Democratic Party accomplishments have been since even back to World War II?
Well, that takes me back, but I was there.
Doesn't it?
Again, I don't know how much time we have, but, there were just so many things.
I know you were really, really, really young, but...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Not that young, but anyway. The GI Bill. I mean, my gosh. Do you know that when the veterans came back from World War I, you know what they got? They got $60 in a train ticket home. Of course, a lot of them went to Washington to surround Hoover, but that's neither here nor there.
That's right.
So the Democrats wanted to have a GI Bill to give these people a chance, to give them a chance to go to college. And I'll tell you, they had to fight the Democrats, fight the conservatives about this. It was a big, bitter fight. And, I think there was sort of a feeling among the Republicans that working stiffs shouldn't go to college. It was kind of a big deal. But we got that done. And that, combined with, the FHA and the HUD, that gave the veterans a way to get a house. Back in the time before World War II, 70% of Americans were rentals. They were renters.
That's right.
So, but in the 70s, in the 1970s, by that time, with the help of these democratic programs, the reverse was true. 70% of Americans owned houses. Wow, that's the type of thing. That's the type of thing that we can do. And you think of other things like Medicare. Oh my gosh, Medicaid and environmental laws, civil rights. Remember the civil rights under JFK and of course LBJ. And fair labor standards, all of the things that come into that. And one of my favorite ones was the Equal Pay Act of 1963. What an idea! Women were going to get equal pay. Who knew? So that was a big deal.
We're still working on it, though, aren't we?
Well, we are. But it was a good step, and of course, it was
Absolutely.
The Democratic Party.
Yeah, that's right.
That did that. And Workman's Comp, the Peace Corps, OSHA. Speaking of OSHA, that came in the news with that terrible mining disaster. It gives you an idea. Of course, that was terrible, but I think there'd be a lot more if it weren't for OSHA. So that was certainly a big thing. And some of the other things like school lunch programs, how important that is. And that reminds me of the old, was it Ronald Reagan idea where they said that
ketchup was
a vegetable.
That's right.
Oh my God, things along that line. And of course, all the benefits, health insurance and vacation pay, student grants, and things like that. So those are some of the things that the Democrats have done, and I'm proud of it and proud to be.
And I must say, you're a great historian. So thank you very much for all of the people that don't have that history and that are young. And thank you for going through that. That's really helpful. And
I tried to corner your son and his pal there and give them some history lessons, but they
weren't
they
open.
wanted to go outside. What are you going to do?
That's the problem today.
Yeah.
That was very helpful. Thank you. What is your assessment of how President Obama is doing and leading the country now?
Well, a great question, and I think he's doing amazingly well considering the mess that Cheney handed him. So. He's doing this also right in the face of mindless Republican opposition, and they call it the party of no, and it certainly is. It's the party, not only the party of no, but the party of undo. And we look at what Obama's accomplishments are. My gosh, he's stopped the financial free fall. He got health care reform passed. He improved our image around the world, which I think was fabulous. People now think that adults are in charge. Adults are finally in charge. So I think that's a wonderful thing. He's eliminated some of our wasteful spending, like on the F-22. You probably saw the other day, Secretary of Defense Gates gave a speech. He said, Congress, stop sending me all this money. We don't need all this money for
That's right. He's going to try to start to cut.
Yeah, the whole problem of having some weapon systems that aren't needed and so forth. And so Obama is behind that. And of course, we look at the Supreme Court, and he got Sonia Sotomayor in there, and excuse me, she's the first Hispanic and only the third woman. And of course, hopefully now we have going to have another woman in there now.
That's right.
But these are the legacy that he's going to leave, hopefully. And you look at the conservatives on the court. I mean, they're children. Roberts and Alito, and even Thomas is going to be there for 1,000 years, and Scalia will always be there. So we're not. It's not like we're making any progress, but hopefully we'll at least hold our own.
Balance it out.
Yeah, and things like credit card reform. They're bringing the bank interest rates down to at least where loan sharks are. I mean, we're trying anyway. And also stem cell research. Of course, he couldn't get anything through Congress with that, but he could do it and he did do it by executive order, and so he provided some federal funds for that. So I thought that was a pretty good thing to do. I wish he'd do a little bit more on energy reform, but can't do everything. The healthcare took so much effort, time and effort. But
and that has been, how happy are you about the healthcare reform, and what does that mean to you, Frank?
Oh,
that has been huge, as we all know, as Biden reminded us.
I'm just ecstatic over the healthcare reform. Just think since Teddy Roosevelt to Teddy Kennedy, our leaders were trying to work on this, and he was President Obama's the only guy that could do it. And would you think of what they've done here? 30 million plus people covered now. And if you have a pre-existing condition, it's going to be covered. I used to be a health insurance underwriter in another life, and believe me, my job was not to overlook pre-existing conditions. If you had a hangnail, we would put a rider on it. So I always had a good feel for how that would work.
As a healthcare provider myself, I know exactly what people have gone through and how they've struggled, and it really feels like we've turned a corner here, doesn't it? Yeah,
I think so, and I can't believe, I know it's not a perfect bill, but it can be improved, and it will be improved. But it's a giant step. And I really get upset when the Republicans use fuzzy math to try to cloud our vision on this. And I'm reminded of that old saying, figures never lie, but liars always figure, something like that.
That's right.
Anyway, so they try to confuse us.
Why do you
on
think the Republicans try to block everything that Obama has tried to carry out or put forth?
Well, I just think they really want to get the levers of government. They want to control the government, and they call it starving the beast. They want to starve the beast and take over and undo everything that we can do. Again, just looking backwards instead of forwards. So I think that's what they're trying to do, and that they're not going to stop.
And that's why it's so important for people to get involved and really be part of this process so that doesn't continue to happen.
Absolutely. People have got to realize that if they don't get involved, like we said earlier, they can't complain. So, right. Hopefully we'll reach some people that will decide to do just that.
I understand that you've had a career in financial matters, and how do you think the economy has started to grow again in that there are more jobs available and that the economy is starting to grow? I mean, do you feel that is what's happening, and how does that impact kind of your experience in this?
Well, I'm really excited about the whole energy thing. I think that is the answer to all of our problems. We've got to do something about it, And the key is putting a tax on fossil fuels. So once we do that, then people are going to start to invest money in alternative energy, and people are going to start to conserve. I remember when my wife and I were young, this was many years ago, but we were building a house, as were a lot of our friends, it seems, at the time. And you go to a function, and everybody was talking about R factor, how much your insulation was, and
Right.
how many windows you have. You're old enough to remember that. And people get
Thanks, Frank.
people get excited about it. We're going to conserve energy. Of course, Jimmy Carter was there with a cardigan sweater and all that stuff. And he was right. And he put the solar panels on the White House and all that stuff.
Right.
So that was the kind of feeling that we had, and it was a good feeling. And we just got a new wood stove, and we did this and we did that, and we're going to take care of ourselves. And then, of course, Reagan became president, and our puppeteers in the Far East, or the Middle East, lowered the price of oil, and the rest, as they say, is history. We went right back to our old ways. So I think if we have a tax on it, it's going to allow us to be adults about this. So I think that's what we can do, and this is going to bring a lot of jobs to the area. And
new jobs.
New jobs, good jobs, and of course we can cut down on our military spending. I mean, that's the big thing. Look at the budget, and if we do that, then we don't have to worry about the Middle East and oil wars, unneeded oil wars, and things along that line. So that's what I'm hoping, and I think that's where our new jobs are going to come from.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. If you could have a final message to the Gloucester voters, what would it be?
Well, if I could only say one word, it would be vote. And even if it's only to vote the rascals out. But if you lean towards the democratic philosophy, that is being for the common good in this commonwealth, I hope people will register as Democrats, become part of the solution. And if people want to find out more, again, please check out our website, the Gloucester Democratic City Committee.com, and come to our monthly meetings and other events. And certainly feel free to call me. I'm in the book, and I'm always happy to talk to people. And there are other great people like you and Kathleen Bayless and Mary, our secretary, and everybody is always happy to talk to anybody that will show up at any of our events. So I think it's open, it's there, and
they always have great speakers.
They do.
And,
they do, and you always learn something. So
you're right, and they make it some very unique speakers every month. So you're right. Thank you very much, Frank, for joining us and for being our Ward 4 chair. And thank you for joining us for Democratic Dialogue.